Hello everybody, this is Purge, bringing you guys a patch update video. I haven't read these yet, but there's a new update. It's called the Spring Cleaning, and this is my first impressions. I haven't read any of this, so I'm sure I'm going to get some of these things wrong, but I apologize if I do, and hopefully we can clear that up later. I'm about to go on a small trip for about 5 days, so I'm going to miss my KDL match in 2 days, so be aware of that. And I probably won't upload or make any content while I'm gone, but when I get back I'm sure I'll be able to jump right back into it, so just be aware of that. Next 5 days or so I will be out of stuff. So very basic things, inventory changes. I'll click on inventory items, alert to your team, blah blah blah, quick buy, grab all. I'm going to skip over basic stuff like this because I think it's it'll just increase my video length by like 10 or 15 minutes, but alt click networks and passive abilities may have a cooldown. Oh, okay. Alright, I see, that's cool. Just like little feature things, makes sense. Interface changes, screen effect while dead, not important. Buffers, fire timer. Yeah, just feature stuff. I'll read all this stuff over very carefully by myself, but I don't think it's worth going over this stuff while I'm recording a video. Let's get to the good stuff. It's not new treasures, but that's cool. Bug fixes, blah 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 blah. This is all probably good stuff that is worth reading again, but I'm not going to go over it. Sound effects, oh, this is great. There's so many really basic things. This is like cleanup stuff that people have been kind of complaining about for a while, but I'm sure a lot of these issues will be really nice updates. You no longer see trees being destroyed if they're hidden by fog of war. Oh, that's cool. You can place a ward where buildings die. This is just so much. Holy crap, man. This is actually going to be worth reading, but okay, there's the good stuff. Gameplay update. Roshan base armor increased by 1. Attack speed now always continuously adjusts based on the latest modifier. It's heavy attack speed slows, don't linger into the next attack. Okay, that's really cool. This was happening, yeah, this was happening with Untouchable and Fire Spirits. What this basically did was, as you would throw an attack, the attack speed slow would continue past your attack, which wasn't really very fair. So even if you right-clicked an Enchantress for a fraction of a second, and then right-clicked a different unit, the different unit would still get a huge attack speed decrease. So if you accidentally clicked on Enchantress with Untouchable, or if you changed targets from Enchantress to somebody else, it would linger, and that was not accurate. We'll take 200%. Okay, so melee illusions created by Rune of Illusion will take less damage now. Interesting. Random draft hero selection pool time increased, or no, that's heroes in the pool. That's increased. Captain's draft pool is increased, and the bands increased from 4 to 6. Interesting. And Meepo is no longer available in ability draft. It really did make a lot of things OP in its defense. It's like whoever would get divided we stand, if they weren't stupid, would be able to absolutely just raffle stomp. So, alright, Abaddon of Aghanim Scepter Borrow time now reacts 35% of all damage dealt to nearby allied heroes to Abaddon when active. Really cool. That actually kind of makes Aghanims interesting. You could actually hypothetically use this. That's really cool. You'd have to pop it manually, kind of, but sounds kind of cool. Ancient Apparition Chilling Touch attack speed increase. This means that you attack even slower with Chilling Touch. Makes Chilling Touch a little worse. Not a huge nerf there. I think Ancient Apparition will still see play. Anti-Mage's Mana Void area of effect increased again. I can't believe this. Like, his AoE is an entire team now. But I guess it's a way to make Anti-Mage a lot more useful. Counter Helix now has pseudo-random chance. What this means is, this was in the game previously, but basically what it does is it, instead of using full randomness when you do a chance, it now does pretty much guaranteed around 17%. It's like pseudo. So for example, the way it works is, let's say Axis spin chance is like 17%, which is somewhere around 1 out of 8. So let's say you get hit 15 times and you still haven't spun yet. It's basically not gonna, it's very unlikely that it'll happen in pseudo random chance. As you get past the 1 out of 8 mark, everyone that it goes past, your chance to spin will go up, basically. That way it encourages you to spin the more you miss. And the same goes if you just spun. I believe the next spin is very unlikely to spin, if I'm not mistaken, but it's still possible. I think that's about how it works. So it's basically like adjusting the math a little bit to make sure that it isn't super lucky or super unlucky. And this is good because it makes the heroes more fun to play. You'll feel more reliable about them. You can better judge how strong they are. Flaming Lasso mana cost is increased. This is a moderate nerf to Batrider because it's a pretty big mana cost. It just means that it's going to be less easy for you to do more and more things at the early parts of the game, and you might have to buy some kind of an int item, or at least some kind of a mana regen item, or go back to base more often to play Batrider. So you'll probably be able to spend less time on the map. Master base damage increased by 4. This could increase his solo mid possibilities. Not that he doesn't already solo mid quite well. Blood Rage cast point improved. This is really good. The animation is now better on this. I just complained about this recently when I played Bloodseeker, but the cast time on it is really, really long. And it can no longer be dispelled. Manta or BKB will not remove the silence. Holy shit, dude. Bloodseeker is getting actually really good. What a BKB counter. You can silence and ulti some BKB heroes. That's so good. That is so good. That is like ridiculously good. Especially the cast point's lower. God, that's so good. You could just get like a blink dagger on Bloodseeker now or something and like initiate silence important hero and just blow him up. On the bright side, if he BKBs, then he won't take magic nukes, which is usually the reason that most people buy BKBs. But if there's some hero that can counter Bloodseeker hard, like a caster by just getting a BKB, like an OD for example, would still get wrecked by Bloodseeker. So I think Bloodseeker could be played now maybe. That seems too good to not be OP. I should make this bigger, sorry. That's better. Okay, sorry about that. Bounty Hunter track range, cast range is increased, okay. Or it's actually nerfed. At lower levels and the same at max level, which is, it's okay. Brewmaster, your next attack will always activate a Drunken Brawler. Okay, that's cool. Makes Brewmaster a bit more tactical. If you've not been attacked, it automatically, that's really cool. I like this. I don't think this isn't going to matter, this little question mark for the Fire Spirit, but I think this is cool. Could see him be played a bit more, maybe in off lane or mid. But it does give you more reliable damage, which means you have a better chance to kill people that don't have good escapes. No longer has unique values for the first movement speed stack, and now does the same as all stacks. Interesting. I don't completely understand this. First stack bonus was 5, 7, 10 movement speed, now does the same as all stacks. Apparently as you cast it, it would only give you 5, then the next would give 7, the next would give 10. So I assume that means... Okay, here's the... 5 to 9%, old level 3 is 10 to 28%, new level 3 is 15%. I don't completely understand this, and it's not worth me like trying to figure this out right now. Poison sting damage per second increased from 4 to 8, that's huge, a lot more harass there. His free pathing no longer deactivates when enemy has vision of Broodmother. I think this needed to be changed back because it just made moving around the trees way too hard. It's now disabled for 3 seconds when he takes damage instead. Okay. I think that's good. I like that. Yeah, the vision thing was a little too hard to abuse, I think. So this is a bit better. And the lifesteal is boosted up for Insatiable Hunger, which I think is actually pretty good because he is still pretty easy to burst down around 6. Hoofstaff mana increase is massively nerfed. This is a really, really big nerf to Centaur. Keep in mind Centaur's been buffed for months and months and months until he's finally where he is today. The biggest buff was the Blink Dagger costing no mana, but by putting Hoofstomp back up to 130, it will actually cost Centaurs a lot more to initiate. This is also going to encourage Centaurs to just max out Hoofstomp immediately after Double Edge instead of maybe delaying it a bit, but people kind of did that already, so this will hurt him a moderate amount, quite a bit actually, in the early game, because before you'd have Stampede, which was 80 I believe, and Hoofstomp was 85, that's like 160. You'd still have enough for another Hoofstomp, but now his mana pool is going to be low enough where he's probably only going to be able to do a Hoofstomp and an ulti, and unless he has a wand, he won't be able to do another Hoofstomp. So this will limit his level 6 strength, regardless of what his items are, or if he doesn't have very many items, which does affect him because he plays offlane right now. Phantasm has 50% chance to create 1 extra illusion when cast. Okay, he's not going to see play, but it's kind of a cool feature. Especially for the level 1 ulti. It makes your level 1 ulti potentially a lot greater, actually. It makes it potentially a lot better. He is a Chaos here, so that's kind of a cool little change. Penitence cooldown reduced. Which one is Penitence? I think that's... Oh, that's his first skill. The one that nobody really uses, so... maybe it'll get more use. I don't see people leveling this skill first because Test of Faith is the send back spell as well. But I guess in the very rare circumstances where Chen is level 16, then this will be cool. I think it's a pretty big uptime, like 3 or 4 seconds, so that's a pretty big uptime on that spell. Clink's Death Pack cooldown reduced. It's actually a buff to late game Clinks, which surprises me slightly because Clinks is actually played a lot already. I don't know what the stacking is, what the duration or compared to stacking is. Let me check. Playdota.com/heroes. I think the uptime is pretty darn close to 35, so you might be able to keep it up 100% if I'm not mistaken. Bone Fletcher. And Death Pact duration is 35, yeah. So it's 100% uptime at level 16 now, which means that you can pretty much always have Death Pact up, which I think is kind of good because in late games sometimes you'll be running in trying to start a fight and then you have to run out again, go grab another creep. And at least there's no downtime now. You can at the very least use it on a creep wave. So I think this will help Clinks' push a bit late game, which is maybe not the worst thing because his late game can sometimes be a little weak. Poison Touch no longer causes a mini stun. This only removes the instant mini stun at the start. The debuff will still stun the target when the poison sets in at level 4. So this means you can no longer interrupt TPs with Dazzle. You can't interrupt channeling spells. This is something you might have to be a little careful with. But basically it's you can't stop TPs and you can't stop channeling stuff unless you make level 4, which actually means that Dazzle interrupting stuns or channels is very unlikely, and even stunning people with level 4 is going to be very unlikely because I think it takes like 2 or 3 seconds for the stun to kick in, if I'm not mistaken, because the poison applies, it does 1 second of slow, a second of slow, and then it stuns. So after 3 seconds, you basically have to poison touch almost. I don't think you can even stop TPs now because it's like 2.75 seconds. So this isn't necessarily going to encourage Dazzles to max out the poison touch first, but it does prevent him from stopping TPs, which is a pretty big deal. Definitely one of his weaknesses before, at least, is that poison touch was kind of worthless, and now it's a little too good at 1 skill point, I think. It's not super strong as an ability, but it's pretty good. Yeah, it takes 3 seconds to set in the poison touch damage, and yeah. So, a bit of a nerf to Dazzle there, but he kind of needed it. He was pretty good at all levels. Kinetic Field cooldown reduced. As you level it up, that's your 3rd skill. Doom no longer ignores magic shields. Okay, so this includes Pipe of Insight. I bet it includes the Flame Guard of Ember Spirit. So just very, very, very slight nerf to Doom. Not really that big though. I think he'll still see play. Draw Ranger Gust knockback duration increase. This is basically a stun, more or less, but increases the duration. The recharge time reduced. This is good for Earth Spirit. I think he could use a buff. I think he's actually in a pretty good place right now, but I don't play him. But from me watching other people play him, he looks pretty balanced. Creeps no longer try to path around Fissure. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, that is such a good nerf. This means that Earthshaker could legitimately see play in a fair way. It was a little unfair to just path around the fissures because you could just divert creeps from a wave into Ancients, and it was just the most OP thing ever. You could like deny an entire creep wave of EXP for mid lane or off lane or whatever lane you want. It's way too good. And Echo Slam no longer ignores units that are invisible in Fog of War. Alright, that's fine. But mainly this one is really good. This is like by far one of the biggest abuses in the entire game in my opinion, and it's almost impossible to stop unless you ward the Ancients, and that's just a pain in the butt. So I think that really needed to happen. Echo Stomp mana cost reduced down to 100 at all levels, which is fine. Physical and magic damage increased based on the level, so he's a bit better late game. More mana efficient, things like that. Ember Spirit Searing Chains duration reduced. Okay. Alright, I like this a lot. So basically you can't get away with just 1 level of Searing Chains now. The duration is really crap. The damage is still the same at the levels, but this is going to kind of force you to get at least 2 levels of Searing Chains, which means that it basically starves you from 1 skill point that you would have had before. Your damage still does go up by it, so in some ways that extra skill point is still giving you some output and some payoff, but at the very least it's going to cost them a couple more skill points to be effective. And the bonus damage is also going to be reduced, which I think is another really good thing, because Ember Spirit, once you get that level 4 Sleight of Fist, it was really frustrating to play against. Even as a support, you'd be getting hit for like 200 physical damage every 6 seconds or so, and that was really rough. That was before any damage items, so I think he might need more than this in terms of nerfs, but we'll see. I think the Searing Chains nerf is going to do a big thing, because it'll be 4 levels as well for the level 3, the 3-second disable, so hopefully this makes progress. He doesn't really need to be over nerfed, but I'm sure this will make some nice progress. Enchantress's Untouchable slow duration increased from 3 to 4. I guess this is okay. It doesn't really, I don't know if it's necessarily a net nerf, because remember, Untouchable is technically bug fixed / nerfed up above, so in regards, so it kind of confuses me why the slow duration is increased, because technically the slow doesn't reapply to other heroes, so if you're still only attacking Enchantress, it doesn't matter what the duration is, because they're still going to be attacking you repeatedly. Does that make sense? It kind of confuses me why this needed to be done, but it is done. Can I make this bigger? Yeah, I'll make it one more bigger. Hope your eyes are okay. Midnight Pulse Area of Effect increases a huge AoE. Huge AoE. This is like the entire uphill push is going to now be hit by Midnight Pulse. This is going to make Enigma pretty okay at push defending, I think. Faces Void base agility increased. Turn rate improved. I dare say Faces Void will... This is like a very, very small nerf buff I'd like to point out. 2 armor is very low. It's 2 damage, and it is 2/7 of armor, and it is 2% attack speed. Very, very small buff. And the turn rate improved is only probably put in that way because it looks weird probably when you Chronosphere a guy and hit him a bunch, and then you turn around really slowly, and as soon as you turn, you like go max speed. So it's basically to make his Chronosphere a bit more effective, a bit more damage at level 1. Very slight nerfs to Faces Void, but I could see him getting played a lot. Homing Missile now hits invisible units. That is a pretty darn big buff to Gyrocopter. You could realistically... You still can't really max out Homing Missile, but it does make it a lot better. And they also increase the hits destroyed. I dare say we're going to see people trying out Gyrocopter Homing Missile builds, and I think they might honestly be good. We'll see. I've tried it before, and it just honestly wasn't good. If it's a melee heavy lineup, it works, but against ranged heroes, it's really hard to focus it down. But I could see this making Gyrocopter useful again, but we'll have to play it out to test, because 5 hits is actually a lot, especially in pubs. I'm sure people could abuse this very well in pubs where there's less coordination, but in competitive matches, I'm not so sure if it'll be enough. We'll see. Huskar Burning Spears is no longer a unique attack modifier, so that's a pretty big buff to Huskar. That means you can get Desolator, you can get Mjolnir, you can get Lifesteal, most importantly. This will make Huskar a lot easier to play, and at the very least you won't have to choose between Burning Spears and Lifesteal. People probably almost always just do Burning Spears plus Lifesteal. So that makes the hero a lot easier to use, actually. This might be a really, really big improvement on the hero, because you can just auto-cast Burning Spears and right-click a guy with Lifesteal. You still have to do a big right-click, though, is one important thing to remember, is that Huskar got nerfed for damage in the terms of right-click, but he got buffed in terms of damage in terms of Burning Spears. So his magic damage is really where it pays off, which means that the Lifesteal is not benefiting from the damage adjustment. It goes to his Burning Spears instead of his right-click. So even still, Lifesteal is not that amazing on Huskar, because his right-click isn't that great unless you put a bunch of items on him. So this might not pay off super hard, but it might also pay off okay in certain ways. Like an armlet build with Lifesteal might be really, really good now, for example. Ghost Walk Slow no longer affects magic immune enemies. EMP delay increased, so it's harder to land EMP. Okay. I think Exhort Invoker is not particularly OP right now. EMP Tornado is pretty annoying to play against, and this delay increase is going to be really helpful, I think. Dual Breath range increased by 50. Yeah, I think Jakir actually needed some buffs. I played him a lot in the last month, and I wasn't completely happy with him. Liquid Fire level 4 cooldown reduced from 5 to 4. That's fine. This is really important, though. Dual Breath is still pretty hard to land, because by the time you get in range, there's a good chance people run out of the range, so the increase will be useful. Aghanim Scepter macro hydration increased to a ridiculous amount, and the range is also increased to a ridiculous amount. I don't see Macropyre being OP. I mean, 14 seconds is ridiculous. That is so long. That's like... I don't think Eggs will see play, but it'll be definitely fun to make videos where you play it. But this is the biggest buff that he got, I think. But it's still pretty meager. I think Jakir was almost useful. Maybe he'll be useful soon, but I don't think he's quite there yet. Juggernaut base attack time improved. This will increase his DPS in the late game based on building items. So this could make Jug more of a late game carry. Keeper of the Light added Aghanim Scepter provides permanent spirit form. Additionally, the following effects are active during the day. Keeper of the Light gains unobstructed vision. Okay. And Illuminate heals allies for 75% of damage values. This is likely not going to do anything, because nobody is going to build an Aghanim Scepter on Keeper of the Light, I don't think. Although the unobstructed vision during day is ridiculously good. It's basically it's an alternative to the Night Stalker Aghanims. I think, yeah, Keeper of the Light actually has just as good day vision as Night Stalker does. So that means if you build an Ags on Keeper of the Light, you will have a giant walking ward. And that's pretty amazing on a support hero, actually. We could see this picked up, maybe, because Keeper of the Light definitely can farm it, but you have to remember that there's a lot of other really important items that you could buy with 4,100 gold, like Mech and a Force, and in most cases that's going to be better than Eggs. The important part is that the Illuminate does heal allies for 75%, which, so you could argue that this is basically a Mech anyways, because that's 500 damage at level 4, so 75% of that is like 300, 350 or something like that. It's about 350 heal, so you can cast that spell quite often. So I could see this being played actually as a support. It's a 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off unobstructed vision, which is amazing for pushing. You always have spirit forms, so you can always blind. and recall and the day vision and the heal. I think this is pretty cool actually. I think we could see Keeper like maybe get played with this. You're still gonna die by Force Staff, but Egnum's is pretty good on Keeper because his HP is low anyways, so I could actually see this be built maybe. I think this is pretty reasonable. You might still have to get a Force Staff first, but Eggs afterwards, or if somebody else is building a mech, could be good. Kunkka Torrent Area of Effect increase very slightly. X mark the spot now lasts twice as long on allied heroes. Okay. And the Ghost Ship buff increases Ghost Ship AoE indicator for allies. I don't know what that means. Maybe it shows like an AoE on the ground or something so people know to walk into it. I'm not sure. Overwhelming odds, bonus damage per hero is increased. Okay. Per creep is still... Wow, this does a huge amount. I don't know what the number implications from this are because the creep is still 20. So if there's 4 creeps, for example, you're doing extra 80. I'm going to pull up Legion Commander because I want to 3D craft this math really quick because this looks pretty cool. Legion Commander. I don't know what the Legion icon... Oh wait, yeah I do. There it is. In Dota 1 it's different. So right now press the attack does... I'm sorry, overwhelming odds does 200 damage at level 4, 20 per unit, and now it does up to 65 per hero. So 200 base, let's say 4 creeps adds a total of 80, so 280, and let's say 4 enemy heroes, that's like an extra 200 damage. So you're basically doing a 500 AoE damage nuke now with overwhelming odds, which is really good AoE impact. Which means that Legion can actually still contribute to team fights quite well, regardless of having good duel damage or not, which is good. It'll pull her a bit away from duel. The AoE is increased as well, and the base damage. Okay, I'm sorry, they rescaled the base damage, but it's very meager. It's like 20 damage decrease. So this means that during pushes, Legion is going to be really good at defending. Keep in mind, this damage is not just to heroes, that's to creeps as well. So you could very easily clear an entire creep wave if they're pushing up. I don't know if this counts. I don't know if this 65 counts for illusions or not, but I do know that the spell does bonus damage to illusions in the first place. Summon units and illusions take bonus damage equal to 25% of their current life before taking the regular damage. So this very easily could just stop pushes, and maybe we'll see Legion as a turtley hero, who knows. Lightning Storm now slows the target by 75. Oh, damn, that's cool. Alright, I'm definitely going to max out Lightning Storm at some point, or at least get 1 level of it, I dare say. It's a very low duration, but this is a cool little buff. It's almost like a mini stun, technically, but I would like to see this in play. If you're playing a supporty Leshrac, I could see that being kind of useful. Lich's Frost Armor can now be cast on buildings. That's really cool. Aghanim Scepter, Chain Frost no longer has a bounce limit. This is really cool. I saw somebody tweet about this. This is like one of the few spoilers I got before I got here, but this could actually still be a major threat, especially against push lineups. This could be a threat. Against push lineups, there's tons of creeps, there's Necro 3s. It could cause Lich to die, I suppose, to Necro 3s and stuff, but if you just Chain Frost a wave, especially when you grab Ags, by the way, at Lich, I believe it really reduces your cooldown to pretty low. So I think you could actually viably pick this up. I don't necessarily know if we'll see a Lich mid or anything, but probably not. It'll probably still be a support, and I still don't really expect to see an Ags purchase, but yeah, the cooldown is 60 seconds at level 16. So if you hypothetically get to level 16, you could actually use this casually to clear creep waves. So I don't think we'll see it be played, but at the very least, this buff is going to make Lich very good against push lineups. Very good for against push lineups. That's borderline OP, I dare say, because even an early push, if Lich gets an early level of Frost Armor and shifts to the lane and drops the Frost Armor on the tower, they're gonna take so much damage. Plus, it works on range shares as well. I mean, the amount of time it'll take to destroy a tower now is massively increased. So I think we'll see a lot more Lich supports against push draft, I dare say, or maybe we'll see more offlane Liches, for example, because previously offlane Lich wasn't played because pushes could just destroy the tower so fast, and Lich could do nothing to stop it. So an early level of Frost Armor might push Lich into a possible offlane hero now. We'll see though. Lina attack range increased again. Aghanim Scepter Guna Blade goes through Magic Community. Cool. I like this. That's really good actually. I don't think we'll see Lina played because of this buff here or this buff here. At least not as a core, but I think her support is definitely still okay. Like, a support's not going to be able to pick up an Aghanim Scepter in the first place, but the extra range is going to allow Lina to continuously harass. Lion's Hex cooldown is rescaled, so it is better as you max it out, down to 12 seconds, which is pretty good. It's like a 4-second disable, a 12-second downtime. Not bad. Spirit Bearer health regen increased. I like this. I think this is pretty good. Spirit Bearer is kind of easy to punish now. He takes a lot more focus now that he gives 300 gold, so the health regen might balance this out. Luna's base agility is reduced, so 4 damage nerf on Luna. That is 4% less attack speed and about half a point less armor. Shapeshift no longer provides health bonus. I think this is an okay nerf. Magnus's skewer maximum target. Oh, removed the maximum target limit. That means I don't know if this still gets unlimited amount of creeps or anything. I assume it's just heroes, but that means it's better at skewering level 1. The range is slightly buffed here. Magnus has not played very much, so I think this is okay. Split shot reworked from blah 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 of damage with 5 targets to 80% damage with maximum targets changes. Okay, I like this a lot actually. This means that split shot is actually way more useful in the early game. Because in the early game, it's not very common to use split shot in team fights because you're only hitting for like 40 or something weak. But at the very least, you can control better. If there's limited amounts of heroes or creeps, you're more likely to get the last hit. So I really like this change. This is a very smart change, I think. Yeah, a very smart change. I like this a lot. It's a little OP in the early levels, I dare say, because if you're only fighting 2 heroes, you're now doing 160% damage instead of needing 2 or 3 points of skill shot or split shot to do damage. But I think it's kind of balanced because Medusa's a pretty weak hero in the early game, pre-6, so I think this will be a nice little buff. I think it's definitely worth it to grab an early level of split shot somewhere before 6, and maybe not before 6, but this is pretty good. This is honestly pretty good. It might be worth picking up pre-6. Definitely not worth putting off for forever. You could even get away with like 2 levels of split shot and leave it at that, maybe 2 or 3. You don't really need to max it out now. You could just get 2 or 3 levels, I think, as well. Maybe you can get more stats. No longer requires fog or war vision to bounce, okay. And the absorption per mana is increased. So this is a buff, especially at level 1. It's the same at level 4, but it's better early, which I think is pretty good. So Medusa's early game sucks. This is a nice buff to Medusa's early game, and this is a nice buff to Medusa's early game. That's cool. Meepo base movement speed increased by 10. Little buff to Meepo. Mirana's Sacred Arrow vision reduced, so it gives less vision as the arrow flies through, which I think is fine. The vision it gives is already pretty good. And this will be less likely to spot heroes sitting in trees and stuff when you arrow at a tower. Naga Siren Mirror Image Illusion damage reduce. So a bit less damage from the illusions. Riptide Area of Effect reduced again. And the negative armor no longer goes through Magic Immunity. I didn't actually know that it did that, but moderate buffs to Naga Siren. She's still going to be really annoying split pushing, but at the very least her illusions will not hit you as hard in the late game. So we got, or even in the early game actually. It's a moderate nerf to damage here. Not a huge amount, but a bit. So I think Naga will still see play. Yeah, I think she'll still see play. Necrophos Heartstopper Aura Area of Effect increased. Okay, that's not going to do much. And now it's plus 30% duration to the respawn timer. That's cool. I actually like this one. Makes Reaper's Scythe a lot more situational. I like how he's being pushed into like this niche area of screen people's respawn. So this is cool. I like this. I don't think it's gonna make him see play, but it's some nice buffs. Maybe some meta will be created out of him eventually, but I think he's not gonna do much right now. Darkness now also affects the vision of buildings. I thought it did this already, but I guess not. This makes Night Stalker pretty annoying to play against, I must say. Next Assassin Impale cooldown increased, and Impale can be no longer blocked by Lincoln Sphere, which is fair actually, because it's a ground targetable ability. So it's there. I mean, there are some spells that are still blocked by Lincolns that are ground targetable, like Fissure, for example. But the cooldown increase is a nice nerf to counteract with this, because Lincoln's is actually built a lot right now, and this is going to make Nyx a little bit better against Lincoln's heroes. He's still not going to be able to use Mana Burn, because if the Impale doesn't block the Lincolns, then the Mana Burn will be blocked by Lincolns, but I think this is a nice adjustment. Ogre Magi base armor increased again. He has huge base armor right now. Cast animation improved as well by a small amount, so Ogre Magi may see more support play, we'll see. Omni-Knight Purification Area of Effect increased. Repel no longer removes positive buffs from allies, that's good. It doesn't remove Guardian Angel, that's really good. Before you would have to use Repel first and then Guardian Angel. Now you can Guardian Angel first and then Repel. This also means you probably won't repel off things like Bloodlust or other little buffs that you can give to allies. The duration is also increased, and the Aghanim Scepter duration increased by a lot, a huge amount. This is actually potentially game-breaking. Maybe not game-breaking, that's like Omni-Knight as a whole, in terms of his abilities being OP on paper, but maybe we'll see more Omni-Knight play, honestly. That's really, really good. That's really good. 10 seconds of team invulnerability. Your team will basically not die when you get an Aghanim Scepter for 10 seconds. It's a huge cooldown of 140, but this is seriously strong. This is seriously strong. 8 to 10 seconds of invulnerability. Against the right lineup, this is OP. This is OP. Stifling Dagger cooldown reduced. That's a pretty big buff. The slow duration is like 4 seconds, so getting away from Phantom Assassin is simply not going to be possible. Blur evasion chance increased as well. It scales even better. 50% at level 4 is ridiculous. I like that it scales better as well. Instead of doing 5%, 5%, 10%, and now does 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. Which means that putting more points into it is going to feel better. And a lot of people don't put a lot of points into it early, but this is amazing. You could, I can almost see, especially with the dagger cooldown being reduced, I could almost see a build where you go 2 dagger or 3 dagger, and then you get more levels of blur easy. Imagine like just maxing out blur right away. Like nobody is going to be able to kill you. They'll still be able to nuke you down and easily kill you that way, but this opens up build possibilities, I think, for Phantom Assassin that she didn't previously have. You don't need to necessarily max out the dagger because the uptime will be more, because the cooldown is lower, so you can get away with getting more levels of blur, possibly, depending on the lineup. Nice, Phoenix getting nerfed. Cast point extended. This is good. So you can't instantly dive. You'll be forced to predict stuns a bit more. Fire Spirit's damage reduced by a very slight amount, and the health cost increased by a bit. So I think this is good. This is very, very mediocre. This is not going to affect very much. The health cost increased is going to hurt Phoenix a bit. It's not going to be a huge amount, but I think this cast point time is going to make things a lot better. It's going to be a lot harder to dive at the exact moment that you're in trouble. This is going to make playing Phoenix on ping issues a lot harder as well. So we'll see how this plays out. I think Phoenix will still be OP in the off lane, but it might not be as bad. I'm hoping not. Pugna decrep, mana cost reduced. Okay, I like that. Netherward duration increased. I think this is cool. It could make something like a Pugna support more viable, but I think it's still absolutely bad. But it will allow you to cast decrep more often without having to worry about your mana pool, which is cool. Shadow Strike cooldown reduced from 8 seconds to 4 seconds at level 4. Max this skill out. Holy crap. The slow is actually really good on it. So late game, this could be really strong. Shadow Strike cast range also increased. So Queen of Pain will be a lot better at level 1. Which may bring her back into the 1v1 matchup. Excuse me. Previous to this, she wasn't played much at all. She was for a long time. She was one of the top mids, but she got phased out. Alright, looks like we're like 2/3 of the way done with this. Strength gain increased. This is a big buff to Razor. So every level he gets an extra 10 more HP. So by level 6 he'll have 60 more HP. By level 10 he'll have an extra 100 HP. This is a big deal. This is the equivalent of like an extra belt of strength or something. Yeah, an extra belt of strength every 10 levels. It's not bad. It's not bad. The slow duration is also increased a little bit at all levels. It's fine. Backstab now works when attacking allied units. Okay, so you can deny them. Shadow Demon added an Aghanim Scepter upgrade. Demonic Purge cooldown replaced with 2 charges that have a 40-second replenish time. That is really cool. I like this. I don't think we'll necessarily see it in pro play, but you could build it. Shadow Demon's pretty darn item independent. You could hypothetically go something like Force Eggs, but there's probably better stuff to build. Ghost Scepters, Blink Dagger. It's really cool though. I really like this. Eggs are so cool. It's like such a cool pub item generally, but not always good, viable, competitive item. But this is really cool. Especially if they have multiple BKB heroes, you could Demonic Purge one guy and then cast it on somebody else. That's really cool. It's going to burn your mana pretty fast because Demonic Purge costs 200, 300, 400 mana, I think. Or maybe it's 200 at all levels. It does 200, 300, 400 damage. But that's really cool. And most importantly, you could keep somebody so slowed for so long that you could easily outplay them with this. It will actually turn Shadow Demon into a solo killing machine. Maybe we'll even see something like a mid Shadow Demon. I'd be a little surprised, but that's really cool. It gives him a lot more late game viability, I think. He's still pretty darn heavily countered by BKBs, is the only problem. Shadow Fiend Requiem Soul secondary debuff now affects magic immune units. That is the damage reduction. Silencer agility growth increased. That's pretty amazing. That's an extra 1 point of agility per level. So every 7 levels you get 1 extra armor, which is good. It also increases his attack speed by about a decent amount, 10% per 10 levels. Not bad. Curse of the Silent cooldown reduced to be better at level 4. Okay. Skywrath Mage base movement speed increase. He has huge base movement speed. He's actually tied with the fastest hero now. I think 325 is the fastest, maybe 330. So this is really good for him. Concussive damage shot damage increased slightly. Small buff. Sniper fix sniper's acquisition range not matching his maximum attack range. I think this means that if you A-click the ground, maybe, I would guess that means to start attacking, you would have to be within a certain range that was bugged. But if they ran away from you, they would still be within range. I think that's my guess of what was happening. So maybe a sniper will seem extremely OP now, whereas before, this happens sometimes where here we'll get a buff and it'll be bugged. They will think that they fixed it correctly, but it'll be bugged, and then they'll buff it again, and then they'll be like, oh wait, there was a bug all along. So these last two buffs were in some ways unwarranted, or at least the second buff was unwarranted. And then once the bug gets fixed, you realize that he was overbuffed, and then he'll be nerfed back again. So this might happen with Sniper, we'll see. Spear Breaker, another strike cast range increased. Pretty good. 700 at all levels is a huge range increase. And the cooldown is rebalanced to be worse at level 1 and better at level 16. Space base damage increased by 5. Sven's getting some big buffs here. Templar Assassin Psionic Trap sub-ability has the same cast point as the ability on the trap itself, which is 0. So this makes it a little easier to cast Psionic Trap, basically, but it's very mediocre. This is a buff for bad players, I think, but for good players, it's not going to make a big deal. Terrorblade, here come the beautiful nerfs. Strengthening reduced from 1.9 to 1.4. This is a total of 10 HP per level. So at level 6, you will have 60 less HP. Terrorblade is one of the lowest strengths in the entire game. At level 1, he has 435 strength. So this means you have to buy treads now, I think. You have to get HP items early. Reflection no longer slow, persists through magic immunity, which is completely balanced. Thank God. I played Omni Knight versus Terrorblade. He used Reflection on me. I used Repel, and the slow still lasted on me. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is the slow still on me? It was ridiculous. And the slow duration is rebalanced from 5 to 2.5 to 5.5. This is a huge nerf to what Terrorblade was before. The strength gain is pretty strong nerf, and the reflection rebalance is a really big nerf. Skill was OP. 60% slow for 5 seconds was like the best level 1 disable in the game. Pretty much probably one of the best level 1 disables in the game, by like really, it honestly was. 2.5 seconds of slow is fair considering the damage from the disable is weak. Terrorblade is still useful, but he's not as able to just 1v1 any offlane hero and kill them at level 2. It's less likely now. It's still possible, but it's much less likely. 5 seconds of disable was so much. It's actually like 5 or 6 uncontested right clicks on a melee hero if you got that off on a melee hero. So definitely OP. Anchor smash damage reduction increase is pretty big, and it now works on ancient creeps. Ooh. I don't think we'll see. I don't think this will necessarily encourage an offlane Tide Hunter, but it does give you the ability to farm it. So you have to remember that even to anchor smash the ancient creeps, you have to level it up first, and it kind of sucks at level 1. It goes 75 damage, 125, 175, 225. So level 4 it does 225 physical damage. You could stack ancient creeps and clear these later, but the problem is that until you get the anchor smash leveled up, it's not going to be very good at clearing ancients. It's simply not. You can't do it with level 1, level 2. You probably need level 3 or level 4. The cooldown goes down. But if you, an offlane Tide Hunter, for example, could stack 5-6 times, and then as he saps XP, he could go back there later and farm it for his Blink Dagger or something. That's possible. Heat-seeking missile no longer blocked by Ethereal. This is a buff to Tinker, actually. It makes it a little easier to use the Eblade Dagon combo. So that'll be a little annoying, because Tinker is already kind of annoying. Craig Exterior stun duration rescaled. It is lower at level 1 and better at level 4. So it makes it a little bit less RNG, I would say. Whirling Axe's cast point improved from 0.2 to 0, so it's basically buffed back to where it was. I actually like Troll Warlord, but he does have late game carry potential issues. Tusk reworks Snowball into a 2-part ability, one which creates a snowball, and a sub-ability to launch the snowball. You have up to 4 seconds to use the sub-ability. The area that automatically pulls allies in has been reduced. Interesting. Wait, that's the old. Let's scroll down a little bit. New, begins rolling a snowball automatically. I gotta actually reduce this here so that I can read this. Begins rolling a snowball automatically gathering allies in a 100 radius. Allies within a 400 radius can also be added to the snowball by right-clicking on them. Once launched, any enemies caught in the snowball's path will be stunned and take damage. Each allied hero in the snowball will add to its speed and damage. So it's kind of being buffed back to what it was in the past, where it made it really fast. Damage is the same. Bonus damage per ally goes up. That's cool. Bonus speed per ally goes up. That's cool. Stun duration is the same. Gather radius is 100. Launch time is 4. So this means that ganking with snowball is going to be a little easier. What you can basically do is you can start the snowball from increasing, and then people can jump in. So there's a bit more control about whether or not you go in the snowball or not. I lost my place. Cool. And you actually do go faster now with allied heroes. In the past, it did this when Tusk first came out. This was the case, and people would just roam the map with Centaur and Tusk, and they would snowball everybody, and it sucked. But he got nerfed, and maybe he'll be more supporty here. I could see him be played a bit more as support with this. We'll see. Undying Soul Rip area of effect increased by a huge amount. This is pretty big. Tombstone Zombie Death Lust max % HP threshold increased at all levels. This is really good. It makes Tombstone better at level 1. It makes Undying the early game strong hero he kind of deserves to be. The zombies no longer give any experience or gold. Okay. And the bounty increase from the tomb. And the Flesh Golem's Plague Aura now affects magic immune units. Interesting. Okay. Interesting changes. Makes the Tombstone even better early game. Dare I say OP. And they don't give gold or experience anymore. Ursa Fierce Swipe's no longer a unique... wow, that's a big one. Let's see what OP things can you get with Ursa now. Desolator is going to be really strong. Downside is that buying a damage item on Ursa is not always needed. You kind of need utility stuff a lot more, so maybe this won't pay off hard, but Desolator is really good. Mjolnir is a waste because you don't need attack speed, technically. You kind of do in the late game, but in the early mid game you don't. Desolator, I assume, will be really good though. You'll probably blow people up really fast. Probably Deso is the main one that I'm thinking about. Oh, you could get a Scotty as well. Scotty would be kind of cool. Scotty would actually be really good. Because the damage at a Scotty, it doesn't really give you that much actual right-click damage. But it does give you 25 strength. And strength actually translates to damage for Ursa because of his Enrage ability. His ulti gives you a % of damage based on your HP, your current HP. So if you increase your HP by 500, which is what you're doing, then you're also getting 7% of that in damage back, and 10% is 50, so it's around 35 damage. So Scotty actually gives you around 55, 65 damage on Ursa. Scotty definitely could be a viable Ursa item, plus people are never going to be able to get away from you. So you still have to worry about being stunned, but if you have a BKB and a Scotty, people actually won't be able to get away from you. So kind of cool. This opens up Ursa's possibilities. That's my theory craft. Deso or Scotty is going to be the way to go. Vengeful Spirit, probably Scotty more than Deso. I think Scotty has a lot better implications. HP, attack speed, mana pool, all that good stuff. When Vengeful Spirit is slain, her kill is inflicted with a negative vengeance aura, which decreases the damage of her killer and their nearby allies until she revives. Interesting. It's based on her vengeance aura level and has a 900 range of area effect around her killer. This is really cool. You could possibly max this out first now. 28% damage at level 4 is actually a decent amount. It's it's about 3/10 of your damage, so if a hero hits for 100, they're going to be hitting for 70. And most importantly, Vengeful Spirit as a support is likely to die. If she swaps out an ally, she's still likely to die. And if you put that negative vengeance aura on an enemy carry, the carry will very likely stay alive until the end of the fight and then die. So I dare say this is going to it makes her better at team fights. Basically, it impacts a pretty big team fight swing. You're going to do minus armor. At the very least, even if you die, your aura is still paying off, which is the important part. It makes those skill points not wasted. Because before, if you throw a max level stun and a max level wave of terror, it's still paying off if you die, whereas the aura only works if you're alive. So I like this interaction. It's really cool. Some people still max aura, are maxing aura first. I saw somebody on Titan go 214, but not everybody agrees with that. So I'm unsure. I think it could see... I don't think it'll really... She'll still be played. She's still played right now a little bit, but not a huge amount. But that's a cool buff. I like it. Visage Grave Shield cooldown increased from 16 down to 10, so a buff on Visage. Oh, I'm sorry, nerf actually. It's worse at level 1 unless you level it up. So nerf on Visage. Warlock Shadow Ward duration increase. That's huge. That means that it's one of the best nukes in the game right now. I think it does 45 damage per level, so that means you're doing around 500 damage at level 4 with Shadow Word. That's amazing, and you can heal for 500. That's pretty big. That's really big. Upheaval cooldown reduced. Wind Ranger activate. Windrun now just joins incoming attack projectiles. Okay, this is a nice little buff. Previously, if you'd attack Windrunner and the attack would be in the air, and then you'd use Windrun, it would still hit you because it attacked before the evasion check went through. But now it will disjoint incoming attack projectiles, which is a nice little buff to Wind Ranger. Actually, it'll allow her to solve oh shit moments a little bit better. Aghanim Scepter focus fire damage reduction decreased. Wow. Okay. So that's Aghanim's. Okay. Aghanim's on Wind Ranger could actually be quite played right now. It's pretty amazing. Previously, Aghanim Scepter on Wind Ranger was pretty much worthless. All it did was made it so if you had a Mjolnir, then the magic, like the lightning, would also be reduced by this 30% here. Same goes for Monkey King Bar, but now it not only does that, but it'll also make it so your right-click damage isn't going to be reduced, which is important, because that means that you can now get an Aghanim Scepter on Windrunner, even if you don't have a MKB or a Mjolnir. So it actually makes the item useful sometimes. And it's not bad. It actually, you could very easily do mid-carry Wind Ranger now with this, because max attack speed, any way you look at it, is not bad if you're building semi-damage items. Even if you don't have even if you don't have major damage items, even if you only have like Force and Hex, it's still pretty good damage. But now you're gonna hit for like 140 max attack speed. It's actually quite good. I think this is probably still not gonna get built, but it might after a Hex, is my guess. Witch Doctor Malduck cooldown reduced by quite a bit. Death Ward base attack time improved. A very, very slight damage increase, basically, for Witch Doctor here. I think that's fine. Mortal Strike damage ratio increase. This is your crit. Does better at all levels. Base armor reduced by 1. I was going to say, I don't know why they're buffing Wraith King, but reducing his base armor by 1 is good, because he's a little hard to kill sometimes in the late game. And this is also going to make greedy item builds like Mjolnir a bit less useful, because he'll get blown up a bit faster. Zeus is getting buffed, I guess. Arc Lightning cast point improved. That's good, because the cast time in this is lower, and the Lightning Bolt True Strike range reduced, actually. Okay. Lightning Bolt Flying Vision range increased, so it gives more vision, but it gives less true sight. And it can be cast on the ground, affecting the closest enemy hero in 250 range. Interesting. That's really cool. I really like that. That is really cool. Oh, that's so cool. So now you can cast it on the ground. And even if you know about where a hero is, it basically makes Zeus a lot better against fogged enemies. So much better. Like people that juke, he doesn't have as many issues with. Because if you know they're in a small area, you can lightning bolt that area. It's not only going to hit them, but it's going to give you all of this vision. It's going to give you true sight. So that means you can now... God, that's kind of OP. Holy shit. You can cast on the ground, which means you can de-ward with this. Yeah, you can actually... I assume that it'll still give the true sight. This means you can de-ward with this as a support. Or mid, either one, but you can de-ward with this. It'll last for like 4 seconds or something. You can de-ward with this. You can check for observer wards just to see if there happens to be an observer ward there. You can cast it on juking heroes. This is a really cool buff to Zeus. This is really cool. I like this a lot. He's not played in the pro scene right now. I think he's actually a pretty good hero, other than the fact that he's outlaned by most heroes and he has no control, so it's easy for heroes like Storm and Ember to absolutely destroy him. But his damage output in teamfights cannot be underestimated. It's actually really serious damage. So, cool. I really like these changes. It doesn't like have to change his item build like an Aghanim's changes. It actually is just an all-around really big buff to both the Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is a lot better now, and a really big buff to Arc Lightning as well. That's a big cast point difference. Alright, that's it for the patch. So, it's very likely that this is all of the changes that are going to happen going into TI, so be aware of that, guys. There's probably not going to be any more buffs or changes until TI happens, because it's important that you don't change the game too much before a super major tournament. So, really, really nice patch. I like everything here. I think it's really nice. I think this might allow heroes like a Terrorblade to be put into pro games. It's possible. This rebalance is good. It's basically they needed to really fix a lot of stuff. And I think the nerf to Ember Spirit and Terrorblade are going to be good enough. It should make pub games a lot more enjoyable as well. Maybe we'll get another slight adjustment before TI, but it's very unlikely. If there are adjustments, it's probably not going to be on heroes that are actually in the game. It'll just be more adjustments on like Phoenix and Terrorblade, heroes that aren't in Captain's mode yet. So I guess that's it. I think this one was fairly easy to understand. I maybe messed up 1 or 2 things there, but everything was pretty straightforward, just little number adjustments and things like that. That's my thoughts and impressions. Again, I'm going to be gone for about 5 days now. Thanks everyone for tuning in though, and hopefully you have fun in pub games, I guess. I don't know what else to say here. Goodbye, I guess. Alright, see you guys.